All right, today we're going to unpack a pretty controversial theory about the hidden forces that are really shaping global power. The idea here is that what you see on the news every day, well, that's just the surface. Underneath, there's a much deeper, more calculated game being played. And it all kicks off with one single provocative idea. Everything we're about to talk about hinges on this one sentence. The speaker basically takes that famous quote about the devil and applies it to geopolitics. The suggestion is that America's greatest trick was luring China into a financial system that was, specifically designed to benefit the U.S. and to set China up for a huge economic fall. So, how was this trap supposedly set? Well, it all starts with what we all know as the Chinese miracle, that unbelievable economic boom the entire world has been watching for the last couple of decades. So, the theory goes something like this. After the 2008 financial meltdown, Western central banks basically told China, hey, start printing money, lots of it. And that's exactly what happened. It fueled this massive infrastructure boom, sucking in resources from all over the planet, and in doing so, pretty much saved the world economy. On the surface, it looks like a spectacular success story, right? But according to this theory, if you peel back that shiny veneer of prosperity, you find three massive problems lurking underneath. Absolutely staggering national debt that future generations have to pay. Huge inequality between the super rich and everyone else, and of course, widespread political corruption. And this brings us to the core analogy of the whole theory, a new opium war. Except this time, the tool of dependency isn't a drug, it's the US dollar. The system is allegedly set up to funnel wealth from China straight to the United States, creating this cycle where the ultimate Chinese dream is actually to get your money and your family out of China and into America. Okay, so now another major player steps onto the board. The theory argues that Russia's Vladimir Putin doesn't just get how this system works, he's actually figured out a brilliant way to exploit its biggest weakness. So the speaker sees the current world order as this American pyramid of power. Down at the very bottom, the least valued stuff are raw resources, and that's Russia's strong suit. A step above that, you've got manufacturing, then knowledge, and sitting right at the tippy top with all the power is finance, Wall Street. And this right here is the absolute key to understanding the whole theory. Putin's entire strategy is to take this pyramid and flip it completely upside down. The goal is to make controlling the world's essential resources, we're talking oil, gas, food, the new top of the pyramid, knocking finance right off its perch. And that brings us to the invasion of Ukraine. According to this theory, if Russia takes full control of Ukraine, together they would control 1/3 of the entire world's carbohydrates. Think about that. That gives them the power to potentially starve nations in Africa and the Middle East, which creates just immense global leverage. But Putin's move in Ukraine isn't just about resources. The speaker claims it's a calculated play designed to expose a fatal flaw in the American system and basically force the United States into its next and maybe its last big move. So this all leads to a really startling conclusion in the speaker's logic. Putin's actions are all designed to create a situation where America has absolutely no choice but to invade Iran. The big question is, why? The reasoning goes like this. By invading Ukraine, Putin exposes America as a paper tiger, and since faith in the US dollar is ultimately backed by the belief that the American military is invincible, the US has to reassert its dominance to restore that faith. And what's the ultimate proof of strength? Controlling Iran, and with it, all that Middle Eastern oil and global trade. But there's a huge, huge problem. Iran is not Iraq. Back in 2003, the US totally dominated Iraq's flat, open deserts with air power. Iran, though, is a natural fortress of mountains, a kind of defense that, the speaker argues, jets and bombs just can't easily beat. An invasion there, the theory suggests, could literally be the end of the American empire. And Putin, the supposed grand strategist in all of this, knows it. The theory claims he's already getting ready for this exact scenario, putting the final pieces on the board for a brand new world order. So what's the checkmate move? The theory points to a mutual defense pact with North Korea. Now, that might sound strange, but it allegedly serves a very, very specific strategic purpose. So here's the trump card. According to the theory, if America attacks Iran, Putin triggers North Korea to start menacing South Korea. This would throw the American military completely off balance, forcing it to fight a war on 3 fronts at the same time: Ukraine, Iran, and the Korean Peninsula. So this whole complicated setup leads to 2 predictions for the next 5 years that might sound, well, pretty shocking. First, a new partnership between the US and China, and second, a strategic alliance between Russia and Germany. So why these bizarre new alliances? Well, the theory boils it all down to unavoidable economic reality. The US needs China to buy its debt. China needs US markets to sell its stuff, and Europe, especially Germany, desperately needs Russian energy. In this view, economic necessity is eventually going to crush all the political drama. And that leaves us with the one final question at the very heart of this theory. Are we all just watching the chaotic, unpredictable march of history? Or, as this speaker suggests, are we just spectators in a meticulously planned, high-stakes game of geopolitical chess? The answer? Well, that remains to be seen.